Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SDN. We move now on to one of the most iconic and demanded circuits on the calendar here in Suzuka, the home of the Japanese Grand Prix, a circuit revered by drivers, feared by many, and respected by all, with its unique figure-8 layout in the first sector, high-speed S's, and technical precision required through deck the spoon, and the legendary 130R circuit. Suzuka is the ultimate test of rhythm, bravery, and consistency, and what a story we bring to have this ride as well. Last time in Spain, it was Kick leading. Let me check my mic first because it doesn't seem to be appearing on the screen. So hopefully you can hear me talk before I continue. Yep, it is working. Just have to check because sometimes it's a bit glitchy and iffy. But last time in Spain, it was a tactical masterclass from Williams. Kick leading home Lucas in a stunning 1-2 fashion. Both drivers somehow holding on with the worn tyres under relentless pressure, defending, driving, and its absolute finest, soaking up the attack after attack, and still coming out on top. And that result has shaken up the momentum in the championship leader as well, because Eric is still leads comfortably and the chasing pack are still beginning to close in. And if Spain showed us anything, it's that tyre strategy and management can flip everything on its head. Suzuka, though, is a completely different breed, a completely different challenge. This is not a circuit we can simply defend. You have to attack, you have to commit, and above all, you have to be precise and smooth. And one small mistake here, especially to the fast-flowing first sector, could cost you massively. Anywhere on this track could cost you significantly as well. So the question is then, can Lucas and Kick carry the consistency over to Japan? Or will Eric reassert his dominance at a track that rewards pure patience and confidence? By the way, the championship can be won today here in Japan, and Japan has won the and people have won. People have had championships won in the past as well here in Suzuka, and the latest one being 2022 with Max Verstappen winning that wet race when Leclerc and Perez had their moments in towards the final couple of corners on the racetrack. Verstappen took a second world championship in F1, and ever since then he's won 4 so far. But I doubt he'll win another one due to the regulations of this car. And recently we've had the Japanese Grand Prix as well, and there's many opinions. I think Octavius crashed in the first Degner, if I'm not mistaken. He has crashed on our minimap, so unfortunately for him, he has gone, and so is Yoska as well. So unfortunately, some people are having a few issues and bugs, but Ubi is about to start his first flying lap. Let's see what he's got on store for us as we head down towards Timber, flat out, the gradual braking through turn 2, taking a wider angle through the counter speed through. As you can see, the back of the car just fighting away as we make our way now towards this first set. Here we go, took too much curve on the inside there, but still it's a decent first sector so far for Ubi, trying to attack every single part of the racetrack, climbing up towards the hill of I've actually forgot what it's called now. As we come through first sector and second sector we go. The top of turn 7 is Dunlop. There we go. I managed to get it right. But as we now make our way down in towards the hairpin, straight line of braking, down through the gears we go. You can take multiple angles through there. It's all about traction and the exit out of the hairpin. Now we head out of the hairpin when we saw, I think it was Ollie Behrman crash, because of obviously what happened with Franco Colapinto when he was super clipping, and Ollie Behrman had so much overspeed, he went on the grass and crashed out of the race, unfortunately for him. As we exit Spoon Curve we go, many people have crashed out there too before as well, such as Valtteri Bottas recently in the past as well. Ubi now makes its way towards the end of this middle sector at 9.8 as we make our way now flat out through 130R. Unfortunately, it's not flat out anymore in these regulations or cars as we head down towards the Casio Triangle Chicane. We're very smooth and patient on the throttle as we now exit the final corner. The first lap time is going to be a 26.990, and let's see if that benchmark can be beaten by other people. Mark in the Aston Martin coming towards now the final couple of corners on this racetrack. Here comes Mark. It's a 26.837. And he currently takes a provisional pole, but I think the Ferrari is next up on the line. That could be Sasha, who is starting his first flying lap as he heads down in towards turn 1 as well. Sasha has been doing well so far this season. He's picked up multiple podiums. His last win was back in Australia, and he's been consistent fairly as Olai goes towards the top of the timing sheets with a 26.719. I don't think Olai was their last race, unfortunately. So, unfortunately for him, he did not race, but he did race back in Saudi Arabia, and he took his first maiden podium as well. And it's a 26.719 there, as Sasha goes deeper towards Degner 1, as he hooks it up through Degner 2. It's such a fast, demanding corner, Degner 1 as well, and plenty of people, including Kovalainen, Vettel, I think Hamilton as well, have crashed out there too. That's by pure memory. I think, do you remember Jack Doohan in the Super Formula category? He crashed there 3 times, believe it or not, and there's been onboards for him just crashing to the same corner. And how on earth can you make the mistake? Talk about Jack Doohan as well. He had a colossal mistake as Sasha goes deep and can't unfortunately get back on the track, as we now see Lucas goes towards the top of the time machines. The devil's number 26.666 as he goes towards the top of the time machines. They're the man that won the sprint race in Spain and finished second in the feature race, and he's currently at the top of the time machines. I don't think Kick is here tonight, so unfortunately he does not have his Williams team as a backup there. So we see Eric now making his way towards the final couple of corners. A few snatches on the rear as Eric drives towards the line, and unfortunately for Eric, not really representative to his performance, as we see Robbie Jacobs there up into P5 in the Mercedes then with a 21.170. Every time Robbie Jacobs race, it's always chaos, so hopefully nothing too out the league there, as Lawrence is back in the Aston Martin, a former race winner and a former podium sitter here in SDN, as we make our way now towards the final. In fact, he heads back in the pit lane then, so unfortunately for him, that lap time for him has been ruined as he heads back in the pit lane. Last season's race winner is Fireblaze, and the man that finished in P2 as she became it gets reset to the pit lane entry. Last season's race winner is currently on his outlap, and it was Fireblaze who took a commanding victory ahead of Christian in the Red Bull. But Christian is not here tonight, unfortunately for him, as he's still searching for his first win in SDN in Tier 1, and it's been a long time coming, but unfortunately for him, just can't seem to find the pieces, can't put the pieces together to get his first win, and the Red Bull driver will be still on the hunt for looking for his first win. Leonard currently P8 in the Racer Bull, and he finished P9 back at the sprint race, as Milan Langer has joined then, so I will not be alone, and he should be joining the party anytime shortly as well, so hopefully we get to hear from his arrival. But it is such a demanding track around Suzuka as well, and any mistake could cost you dearly. On board with the Racer Bull driver of Leonard then, speeds about 335 kilometers an hour, that's about 212, as we flick our way down in towards turn 1, now through turn 2, immediately on the brakes there, goes wide, and unfortunately for him, he has suffered an invalidation. So on the back foot is Leonard there as well, because 8 minutes of this qualifying session has gone, and he hasn't got a lap time to his name at all. Josko is out there, and Josko had a decent race back in Spain, but in the second half of it, he just fell backwards. So I wonder what happened to his pace, because he was up into P6 at one point throughout the majority of it. They just slipped backwards as well. So hopefully here in Japan, he can find some momentum going forwards, as we see the RP driver up towards Dunlop, coming towards now the first sector, a 31.6, as he flicks the car in there, as heading up towards Spoon Curve. Now coming towards Spoon, we saw Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel make contact in 2018 there, which cost Vettel dearly as well for good measure, as Josko unfortunately validates there too. That is quite a common place to validate too on the exit of Spoon. Be very careful, you want to use all the extremities of the track, but unfortunately for Josko, he has used too much of it, and as a result for him, he has validated. So both of them, Leonard and Josko, are currently on the back foot. We've got a plethora of drivers who haven't set a flying lap yet. So 8th down to 16, that's half the field almost, who haven't set a flying lap. Fireblaze is now making his way towards the end of Spoon. He does have a kick salver. Remember, back in qualifying, he had a kick salver blocking him. He may have the same encounter. Oh my goodness me, whoever that was, hopefully gave him a slipstream. That was Milman Nick, so expecting more awareness there from the kick salver. But Fireblaze is headed down towards the final couple of corners on this racetrack. I think be neat and tidy as we now drive towards the line. A bit sloppy there as he makes his way towards the line. He goes up into P4 in the Mercedes, and his teammate is Robbie Jacobs, who's currently in P7 on a flying lap. But however, my Dutch commentator Milan Langer is in the party. Milan, hoe gaat het?
I'm alright, thank you very much. That was a bit strange, everyone. I think my game is a little bit glitched out because Dominic was not on track. On my POV, he's in the garage, full on throttle. I've had this glitch before, it's so annoying and so weird as well. But I'll have to work around it. But yes, great to be back here around Suzuka for another round. of SDN. And like you said, quite a lot of drivers who haven't set a lap time yet, but there's also many drivers who are out on track who are trying to set their lap time. Josko is going for a second attempt, if I'm not mistaken. No, he's not. He has run out of fuel. But Laurens in the Aston Martin is on lap, so Sasha and Sheepy Gamer will keep an eye out on them. Sasha is going to take the flag first, I think, of those 3 drivers as he makes his way towards the final chicane. Let's see how he comes out of it with the DRS open and ERS deployments towards the finish line. It's going to be a 27.046, just ahead there of Robbe and just behind Ubi in the Red Bull. Sheepy Gamer, he's making his way through the middle sector. As Laurens comes towards the finish line on my screen, he hasn't got a nose, but he's going to go quickest with a 26.219, 4 tenths ahead of Lucas. Oh, what has happened there with the McLaren of Olijvoli running into the back of the Aston Martin and breaking a bit of his front wing. So I'm not too sure what has happened there then. Was it Olijvoli coming out of the pit, or was he still on the lap? Oh, and he invalid. Oh, that is Lucas completely running into the back. And it's a 5-place grip as well. I must say to the game, that is a very well applied penalty for once. Because Olijvoli does receive a 5-place grip penalty for impeding 4-lap collision with Lucas. But it was Lucas who was going for a second attempt, but unfortunately the McLaren driver was in the way and he broke a bit of his front wing. And he will have to make his way back into the pit lane. He could try again maybe on this set, but with only 6.5 minutes to go, I don't think he has the time, and it's very close there once again with the McLaren of Olijvoli. Broke his wing once again. It was really chaotic there heading towards turn 1, because first it was Olijvoli into the back of the Aston Martin, and on the exit he was in the way of Lucas. But the Aston Martin of Laurens has gone quickest with a 26.2. It's quite a substantial gap he's got so far to the drivers behind him, but many drivers suffering from either invalidation or getting impeded at some sort. So we'll see what the lap times will be towards the end of the session, but at the moment it's the Aston Martin out on top.
It is indeed. Then we've got TVH and now Tim coming towards the final couple of corners on this racetrack. Hasn't set lap time just yet, but he's about to anytime shortly. Let's see what the Dutchman could do as he now drives to the line. It's P12 for him with a 28.1, so he's still struggling there. But Leonard coming towards the top of Dunlop. We've seen plenty of crashes through there as well. I think it was Marcus Ericsson who had a crash up there a couple of years ago as well, and I think it was one of the Williams drivers who crashed up there too. Obviously I'm not going to mention the main one because obviously out of respect, but Leonard unfortunately has invalidated there coming towards the end of Degner 2, so that is unfortunate for him. As we've seen plenty of people, this track is just so difficult indeed. You got to be precise, you got to be on point at every single moment as well. One snap or one misjudgment, one miscalculation could put you in the wall and ruin your qualifying session. Mummy Nick is the next to adventure around this circuit then as he comes towards the first sector, where we saw Carlos Sainz crash in 2017, his last race for Toro Rosso before he switched to Renault that year as well, which is quite strange and bizarre because I think it was Gasly or Hartley who replaced him in Malaysia. I can't remember when it was because 2017 was a weird year, but here we are coming towards the end of the first sector we go. Plenty of drivers have crashed there in the past as well, and Degner 2 can be difficult, or proven to be by Mum and Nick as well. And now we're coming towards the corner where Danny Kvyat suffered a massive crash in 2015, and he, unfortunately for him, he bounced off the track and went to the other side as well, where Hamilton took point ahead of Rosberg. Now Mum and Nick is making his way now towards the end of the spoon curve. We go, flip the car in, downshift a couple of gears, just be very smooth on the throttle there, not the throttle, but on the steering wheel. But it goes a bit deep as well, and unfortunately for him, he has gone a bit wide, but it still counts. So hopefully, well, he might have lost a lot of time due to that as well, because he just understeered, playing wide, and he's 2 tenths down in the first sector. But nobody is challenging Laurens for the time being. It's a massive gap by 4 tenths of a second, and Laurens, unfortunately for him, where's he been? I know he's in esports now and in esports teams, so he's got a lot of work on hand. I'm not quite sure which team he's in, ETA or something like that, but Josko is out the hairpin, and Josko, who had a decent race back in Spain, especially in the sprint, but he lost it in the feature race because I'm not quite sure if he spun and made contact with somebody. He was running in a high competitive place in 6th, but dropped backwards there, unfortunately. He was behind Fireblaze, wasn't he, at one point, when Fireblaze made a big mistake out of turn 3, just lit the tyres up and went for a little bit of a spin. But Josko in the Alpine pushing hard with his ERS as well, quite low. It's a 9.6, obviously hasn't got a lap time just yet because he hasn't set one. As we now make our way down towards this famous chicane we go, where Ayrton Senna and Alan Prost crashed in 1989, which decided the championship indeed, and 1990 they crashed 1 year later in towards turn 1. That was quite ironic indeed as well between the two former championship rivals of 80 Senna and Alan Frost as well. AMS Eric in P10. Milan, all he needs to do is finish inside the top 6 to claim that championship. Eric is going for a championship. He's a bit underwhelmed by it too due to the attendance. He wants more competition. He does miss the old times, and so do we all. But unfortunately, we do have to adjust to the newer tyres. But still, it's been an amazing drive for this man, and not the first Red Bull driver either to win a championship. Sebastian Vettel in 2011 won the championship here for Red Bull for his second championship. Same with Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen won the championship here in Japan for his second championship, but it was announced post-race after Leclerc and Sergio Perez made contact in towards the final corner. Eric there flicking the car and missed the apex, goes a bit wide through turn 2. So I wonder how many hundreds or tens has it scraped from his lap time as he now makes his way towards the first sector. It does seem a little bit hesitant, but he's carrying the speed all the way through this first sector as he gets back on the power, climbing towards Dunlop we go. I did have a race around here in Milan 2 weeks ago in Japan, and it went quite well. I qualified P2 behind Fireblaze as Eric is up by 5/10 of a second, then neat and tidy through the first and second part of Degner 1 and Degner 2 as he makes his way towards the hairpin. He goes straight lines of braking, locks up there as we see him just be patient on the throttle. Carlos Sainz in 2015 crashed there in qualifying too. Robert Kubica also had an incident back in 2010, I think it was as well. But as he makes his way now towards Spoon Curve, where Michael Schumacher spun and crashed in 2012 there, I think, in the practice or qualifying session, I'm quite sure which one it was. And Valtteri Bottas spun here too and crashed into the wall in the Mercedes or the Williams time. I'm not quite sure when that was either. It was a long, long time ago. In fact, I'm watching it right now. It was 2017 when he got on the grass and smashed into the wall. And I do love bringing up Valtteri Bottas too for obvious reasons. But here we go then towards the end of the final couple of corners we go on this racetrack. Uses all the curve on the entry, leaving nothing on the table. Let's see what Eric could do as he crosses the line. He goes up into P3 and the Dutchman there on the second row with Olai. But Olai is 2/10 up in the first sector as he flicks the car into Spoon. That's lovely. Absolute smoothness there from Olai, but he might go a bit deep. He got on the curb there, massive wheel spin, and the Alpine, get out of the way please. Not quite sure who that is, but on the wrong side of the road as we now make our way towards the end of this middle sector. This is a lightning middle sector. There's only 2,000 separating Eric, but there's a couple of cars in the final corner. Get out of the way! Oh my goodness me, some people need to pay attention. That's now we exit the final couple of corners on this racetrack. Let's see what Olai could do as he marches towards the line. It's 26.342 and he's 1/10 away from Lawrence. Qualifying has ended here in Suzuka, but we still got people on their flying laps, including this man, Lawrence. But let's see how he does. It doesn't look like he's pushing. It does. His battery saving coming towards the end of that straight there as well. So he put it in medium or none. I think he put it in medium there, just harvesting energy towards the end of that straight. But let's see if he's up or down in his middle sector. He's up by 71 hundredths of a second there. His teammate spun in turn 3. And that's where Ricardo and Albon crashed back in 2023, I think it was, or 4. But here he is towards the final couple of corners. Can he raise the bar once again? Here comes Laurent as he dives towards the line. It's going to be a 26.115. And what a lap time there. He smashed at the ballpark. But Lucas has invalidated through the end of Degner 2, and Eric there, obviously we know, has just completed his run in qualifying, stays in P4. Ubi in the Red Bull is 3/10 up in this middle sector. Leonard goes up into P4. What a mega qualifying there for Leonard. 6,000 down towards Lucas. But let's see what the Red Bull driver has in store for us. And he makes his way now out of the final couple of corners, nice and tidy. Let's see where he goes now. He goes up into P6 there, ahead of Mark of Fireblaze. Where is he? Last season's race winner. Now making his way towards the line he goes. It's P8 there for the Mercedes, and a disappointing qualifying for his standards. But Josko can't seem to get a lap time on the board. And let's see if he can he finally put his name in the pecking order. Let's see what he does. P7, and he out-qualifies Ubi. So that is the end of the qualifying session, and it is Laurent on pole position. Now, back to what I wanted to say. I did have a race around here in Milan, and I was in second place behind Fireblaze. So Fireblaze had some practice around here. It was wet conditions too. But in the race, I fell foul to the hairpin because I locked my rears up and smashed in the wall, and it was a stupid mistake. But my tyres were old, and obviously on a pad it's so difficult. I was in dirty air, and it just caught me off guard. I was just trying to brake, be careful. I wasn't even pushing, and all of a sudden I found myself in the wall. So it was really frustrating. Could have got a podium that day too, but unfortunately this track is so difficult, mate, isn't it?
It is really, you cannot really make any mistake, you'll be punished immediately, but locking your rears and spinning out is something I relate to, as I did that the same thing as well last week in the ASR at Spa, which cost me a podium, but yeah, it can be quite tricky sometimes, especially on all tires. With the braking, but yeah, that's the end of qualifying. Incredible lap time from Laurens, and Olivo, he's in second place, but with that 5-place grid penalty, will start down in P7, so it's going to be Lucas on the front row and Lennart in P3. Actually, great lap time for him as well. And Erik will start in P4, and I think you said before that he needs a top 6 result to crown himself world champion. Well, he hasn't finished outside the top 6 so far this season, so I don't think that is going to be much of an issue, unless he has some sort of incident, which, well, of course, can always happen around this track when you have got gravel and grass so close around the edges of the track. And a mistake is easily made, but if he plays it safe, he could well and surely become world champion tonight. And if not tonight, then probably next week in the next round, because he's got quite the advantage at the top of the field. But I'm intrigued to see what Laurens can do here for the first time this season, racing here in the Aston Martin. And he's got incredible pace, at least in qualifying. But can he convert it into a race win as well, or is he going to have to deal with the likes of Lucas? Good to see him on the front row again, and hopefully can fight again for the race win. Just like last week at Spain with Kick, when they got a 1-2 in both the sprint race and the feature race. Let's see if he can go for another win, or maybe another P2 finish, as Kick is not here tonight. But he will be fighting it out with Laurens for the race win. What can Lennart, Erik and Robert do? Robert in P5, always entertaining, but sometimes not for the right reasons. But we'll see what he is going to do tonight in that Mercedes.
Indeed, then. So it is a 27-lap race around here in Suzuka. Last time out, it was Fireblaze versus Christian, Happy Meal, for the race win. And Fireblaze muscled his way down the inside in towards turn 1 and turn 2. And Christian did report it because he unfortunately just became a little bit salty, and it wasn't too bad for Fireblaze. Bertie won the Grand Prix. Bertie started out in 9th place. Here we go then for the race. 27-lap race around here. Championship can be won today. And let's see if it's won today as well. Oh, massive crash. It's a Red Bull. And it is. Who is that? It is Ubi's gone down the order. But Laurens maintains the lead going down in towards turn 1. Here comes the Mercedes on the inside. That is Robert versus Leonard. Robert is up into P4. I can see people on the hard compound tyres. So that could be rain on its way very shortly or later in the Grand Prix, because usually it is mediums to hards. The strategies. Fireblaze there trying to go around the outside, where Ricardo and Vettel made their moves in 2014, and Fireblaze is on the inside. The Aston Martin goes off the track, and there is Mark, who goes unfortunately out wide there, and he rejoins down in P13. So a shocking start there for Mark as well. Not enough space for those two to go real to early indeed. We saw the two racing bulls of Liam Lawson and Sonoda going side by side for the whole first sector in 2023 as we head down towards the hairpin for the first time in this race. This is a Kamuru Kobayashi overtake as well. Oh, those two making contact at the exit of the hairpin there as well. I'm not quite sure who that was, as we see there Sasha right behind Fireblaze, but not going to go for the move just yet in towards the famous spoon curve. Overtakes can happen down there, but you need massive overspeed, and you can't afford to go wheel to wheel. You've got to make the move before the corner as well, like Verstappen does, or Vettel. But Verstappen made contact in 2018 there as well. But look at Lucas, right on the tail, and he might try and go on the outside, but not brave enough on that occasion. We see Fernando will also overtake Schumacher, I think, back in 2005. There's Olai is right behind Leonard too. A mixture of the medium and hard compound tyres there, and that reminds me of Verstappen and Raikkonen too, when he squeezed him off the track at the exit of the chicane. As we see then Olai overtake Leonard, so Leonard's dropping backwards there, as he might want to allow Olai to go through. As we head down towards the turn 1 we go. That is so tight there as well. That is Josko looking for a move there on Leonard, but I think these guys need to be a little bit more patient than this, because they've cost themselves a lot of time. The gap between P4 and P5 is 1.2 seconds, so all this battling has cost them dearly. But Robert's right behind Erik as well. Erik is really struggling in this first set, so the gap is 1 second between himself and Lucas there. So Erik is lacking grip in the first sector, seems a bit hesitant, and the car not really responding well as we go to the first and second sector. Remember, Erik is not looking for perfection today. He's looking for consistency, and he's looking to try and take that championship win ahead of his rivals today. And all he needs to do is finish inside the top 7, and the Dutchie will secure his first championship in SDN. Further behind, we've got Colin, who was dropped backwards down there in P16, as we've got multiple people battling there in the midfield.
Great start so far from the drivers at the front. We saw, of course, Ubi, who spun around off the line, really almost dropped down the order down to P15, and he's going to have to recover from that. But at the front, like you said, the gap is 1 second between Erik and Lucas, as Lucas is now right at the back of Laurens. Now he is of course on the set of medium tires, so he wants to take advantage of that tire in the beginning stages of this race. So ideally he would like to get ahead of the Aston Martin. Let's see if that's going to happen now with the help of DRS and slipstream. Down the main straight, is Laurens going to defend? He is. He's going to go to the inside, but there goes Lucas sailing around the outside, and we've got a new race leader on lap 3. It's Lucas in the Williams, and now Laurens will follow him through this first until the mediums fall off from underneath the Williams driver, and the gap now towards Erik is 1.1 second as Colin has sped into the pit lane. Not sure if he's got damage in that incident, but his race has got from Badworth down to P16. He goes, but Erik unable to get back within the DRS range. Now, of course, Suzuka, it's only got one DRS zone, so it's not that bad when you drop out of the DRS range, but still, he will lose that few tenths of a second every single lap on the main straight. But he's trying to get back within the DRS range of Laurens now that Lucas is in the lead. He's brought it down to around 9 tenths of a second. So he's doing a good job at the moment and picking up the pace slowly but surely. It's Octavia and Sheepy Gamer going side by side, bit of contact there on the exit. As Sheepy Gamer does get ahead though of the RB driver through the hairpin and puts himself back inside the top 10. Just ahead then of the RB driver from Sheepy Gamer. Started out in P14. And he's made some good ground so far in this race. Gained 4 positions. Octavia gained 5 positions off the start, but just got overtaken there by the McLaren driver as they went wheel to wheel earlier on in the lap. Sasha in P9, really not struggling. Not sure why he retired in qualifying. Maybe he thought that it was full qualifying, but that caused him to start down the order. We're currently stuck in this DRS train, looking at the back of Fireblaze, who's still trying to find a way past the Alpine of Josker. Fireblaze also on the medium tire, so he wanted to get ahead of the Alpine as soon as possible, as he's right underneath the rear ring. But is he going to be close enough? I don't think he is, as they head towards turn 1, and he's going to try and side move maybe the inside there as the Alpine goes a little bit wide, but not wide enough. As Octavia and Sheepy once again go side by side, and they go completely off track there on the exit. It's 3 wide as Mark is going to go around the outside to take both positions, as Sheepy are almost losing control over his McLaren, but Mark says thank you very much as he's back inside the top 10 after that earlier collision with Fireblaze through turn 1, and puts himself right behind Sasha, but around 1.4 seconds behind, so he wants to get back within DRS range of them as well. Oh, Leonard has gone off. Leonard has gone off through the 2 deckers to the second one, and I can imagine that he hit the curb on the outside of the first one and slid straight off into the wall because he got front wing damage as well. So that is all she wrote for his good race. Started inside the top 3, dropped behind a little bit at the start on his hard tires, but now he's down in P14 and he's going to have to make a pit stop now with that broken front wing. So that's very unfortunate indeed, but that mistake is so easily made around this track. If you just hit the curb on the inside of the first deck there, you get completely shoveled wide on the exit curb, and that just takes you straight into the wall. So very unfortunate indeed. That's not what you want to see, as there is up ahead the Sauber of Moby up the inside of Sheepy came into 130. Oh, that was an optimistic move, and it did not pay off, as did not quite get enough space by the McLaren driver and drops down to P13, losing 2 positions in the process, as behind Leonard will have to pull into the pit lane as once again Laurens and Lucas close behind, and Fireblaze finally has got the position on Josko, who this time around did not have the DRS off the back of Olijfode. So Fireblaze now up to P6 and in some slight clean air to try and chase after the McLaren of Olijfode, both on that medium tire with Olijfode stuck behind this train of Robbe and Erik once again has fallen outside of the DRS range, but the gap is stabilizing around 1 second to 1.1 seconds.
Erik keeps dipping out in and out of DRS constantly as well, so he's not able to try and follow the 2 ahead of him. He's got Robbe right behind him too. Robbe in a Mercedes 9 tenths away from Erik, 2 former teammates in the Aston Martin a couple of seasons ago when he fought on the British GP in the sprint and in the feature. I think it was Erik who won the sprint in the British GP, and no, it was the other way around. Robbe won the sprint and Erik won the feature race that year as well, and it was a super tight finish between those two. But back towards the front, Laurens, I remember him racing in Japan. It was him versus Eastbound, I think, a couple of seasons ago, and what a mammoth titanic battle between the 2 heavyweights of SDN back at the time as well in their prime, and those 2 had a ding-dong battle. I can't remember who won the Grand Prix, but it was a spectacular battle to watch towards the end of this race, and somebody has dropped it again. That is Leonard down in P15, so suffering a bad race. He had a really strong qualifying, did Leonard. Started down in P4, 3 or 4, I think at the time. after Olay's penalty, who's now up into P5. But here comes Lawrence then, a change in leadership in this race. These still got control, but on different strategies. I wonder which strategy is going to pay dividends to who, because I suspect whether it's on its way, but when, because it can either arrive, it could go one or two ways in this race. Better for the mini-cup power tire runners or better for the half runners, because, for example, if it comes later in the race, that means the people on the mini-cup power tires have to pit onto a set of hardcore power tires, and when the rain does fall, if it falls, just to give you a clarification, if it does or not, I'm not quite sure, but if it does come, that means a two-stop strategy is imminent for them. But for the people on the hardcore power tyres, they have to do the one-stop strategy from hard to inter or hard to medium, and they've got a chance as well. But Leonard has retired into the pits, and I think starting the hardcore power tyres when the rain is on its way. I'm not quite sure when or where. Well, obviously where. In Japan, but Octavia has gone off the track in a Degler 2. That's not the first person we've seen so far, so both racing bulls are struggling in this race. Octavia down to P14 and Leonard down and out of the Grand Prix. And Octavia almost scored points back in the Spanish Grand Prix. He was inside the top 10, but I think penalties pushed him backwards and dropped him outside the top 10 as well for good measure, as Eric now in the DRS range of Lucas. So he's struggling for pace, interestingly, there in the Red Bull. But I'm just intrigued to see when the weather does arrive here in Japan. Of course, it gets the monsoon season here in Japan. When it rains, it pours, as the two Kick-Saubers there swapping places. Oh, off the track goes TVHNL this time, as his teammate Mumma Nick goes up into P11 ahead of his teammate, but TVHNL will have the DRS on his teammate then to overtake him down in towards Tier 1. So once again, Eric is dropping away. I wonder if Eric is carrying a bit more downforce slaps on that Red Bull there, just in case the rain does come. Obviously, these guys know if there's rain on its way or not, but we don't, because we don't have any sort of information. We are lacking information in the commentator box if rain is imminent or not. So we are on the unknown so far in this race. It's an enigma, but hopefully in the latter stages we can find out if the rain is on its way. And when it does rain, who will be in the best place, where and when? Because obviously, if you're on the mini-cup power tyres, you hope it rains in about a few laps time, because if it doesn't, that means you have to pit, get off the mini-cup power tyres and put to the hardcore power tyres. We know the mini-cup power tyres is such a delicate tyre, and the left front, the left front tyre takes a lot of punishment in